I'm going to be doing a full walkthrough of this LinkedIn cold outreach system that is 100% automated. This system is designed to help you get more clients. That's either by filling up your calendar with booked meetings or sending them directly to your website for them to actually purchase your product or service. So how does this actually work? Well, we'll start off by using a very powerful web scraping tool called Thunderbit, which uses AI to scrape LinkedIn profiles. We'll then take that data and pass it into DeepSeek. As you can see here in the workflow, we use AI to actually write a hyper-personalized message to that lead. Next, we use a tool called DuckSoup, which is able to automate visiting the profile to make it seem like a human actually went and read their profile, and then actually sending a LinkedIn connection request, which includes a personalized note that was written by DeepSeek. All right, and then that note can include either a Calendly link or a cull.com link, or it can include a link directly to your website with your product or service. If you want to download the blueprint for this automation so that you don't have to build it out from scratch, you can come to futurize.com, click get started, create an account, and then you can join my AI automation community. It's currently under construction. We will be launching on the 1st of March, but you can basically come to the API automation section. So I haven't added it yet, but you can see this is from a previous video. I will add a new post for this video, and I will include a Google Drive link, which will include the blueprint. And that's basically a JSON file that inside make.com, you can click these three dots, click import blueprint, choose file, go to your downloads folder, select that JSON file and click open, and that will import this entire automation for you so you don't have to waste time setting it up. So basically what we're building within this automation is a fully automated business development representative, or a BDR. So it's basically the person who generates the leads, qualifies them, and then connects them or books the meetings for the salesperson. So just by doing a quick search on Perplexity, you can see the average salary for a BDR in the US is $4,882 per month, or in South Africa, it's 20,000 Rand, which is about $1,000 a month. However, this automation will only cost you about $100 per month, which is significantly less than $4,882. All right, so let's get started with building out this automation. So the first step is to identify potential leads and then to scrape those LinkedIn profiles. All right, so there's two ways to do this. There's the old way, which is generic and doesn't actually work. And then there's the new way that's much more targeted. It uses AI, and that's the approach I'm going to be showing you in this video. So the old way is using Sales Navigator, and you can come here, you can go to lead filters. So if you've never used Sales Navigator, you can basically just fill in these filters. So for example, maybe current job title, we can search accountant, and we can maybe come to geography and filter to, I don't know, USA, United States include, and this will then show you 280,000 results for all the accountants, or have the term accountant as their role inside of the United States. Now, although Sales Navigator or these filters might seem useful on the surface, and it does work for some companies, but for most companies, it doesn't actually work because these leads aren't actually interested in your product or service. All right, so you want to get a lot more granular and specific in your scraping or your lead generation so that you can actually identify people who would actually use or buy your product or service. So let me show you how we are going to do that. So instead of using Sales Navigator, we are going to search a specific keyword and look for posts. All right, so let's say, for example, let's use my business as an example, which is Futurize, okay? And we basically have an AI automation community where we help people learn how to automate their processes to get a time and cost saving within their organization. Now, within my community, I have a few courses. Now, let's say we are interested in people who want to learn, say, ChatGPT, right? We can come here to LinkedIn and I can search the term maybe prompt engineering. Then within here, you want to then click on posts, and then we can see here's a couple posts which are talking about learning prompt engineering. So you can see there's quite a few, and what you want to do is you want to click on the reactions over here. And we can see over here, these are people who actually like this post, which means they have some kind of interest in prompt engineering. Now, compare this to what I showed you in Sales Navigator. You can't actually get this granular. You can't filter by people who are interested or currently interested in prompt engineering. And I say currently because this was only posted 2 weeks ago, which means these people, not only are they active on LinkedIn, but they're actually interested in prompt engineering. So these are the profiles you want to scrape. So of course, the one option is we right click, open a new tab, come here and copy this URL, Control C, and then go to a Google Sheet and then paste it in. And then you go and repeat, and you do that for all of these different profiles. So obviously we can do that, but it's very time consuming. No one has the time to do that. However, we can rather use this tool called Thunderbit, which uses AI to scrape the web. All right. So there are some other LinkedIn scraping tools available, but most of them, I would say 99% of them, aren't able to actually scrape the reactions to post, which is what we are actually interested in. Whereas with Thunderbit, you can actually do it. And that's because it's using AI to actually scrape the web. There are some other tools like Bardeen and Browse AI, but they claim to use AI, but it doesn't work the same way Thunderbit does, because Thunderbit doesn't rely on how the web page is structured, and it's not a predefined web scraper because it actually scrapes it in real time using generative AI, which means you can scrape not only the reactions, you can scrape people who commented on a post, you can scrape people who actually wrote a post, you can scrape that post itself. There's so much you can do. And of course, you can scrape the actual LinkedIn profile. But let me just show you the pricing. They do have a free trial where you can scrape 6 pages per month. It's not that much. That's about like 6 LinkedIn pages or 6 profiles. It's not a lot. I'm currently on the yearly pro plan where you get 30,000 credits. You can estimate that at 2 credits per lead, which means you'll be able to scrape 15,000 profiles, which is quite a lot. So to use Thunderbit, you can click on Add to Chrome. I will include an affiliate link in the description if you want to support the channel. So you can click this Add to Chrome button. I've already added it, and here is Thunderbit. All right, so you can just sign up, create an account, and you'll then be able to use this AI web scraper. So Thunderbit has 2 features. They have the AI web scraper, which is what we're going to be using. They also have another nifty tool called AI autofill, which is basically like an AI agent that does data capturing for you. So instead of like filling out a form on a website, you can literally just click a button and the AI will populate all the fields for you. It's quite powerful. However, for this project, we are going to only be using this AI web scraper. So let me show you how simple it is to use, right? All you need to do is come to this page with the reactions. All right, so there's currently 21 here. And then you want to click on this new scraper template. Okay, you can give it a name. I'm just going to call this get leads, and I'll write reactions. All right, so next you want to define the fields to scrape. It's actually as simple as just writing the name of the field you want to scrape. All right, so I can come here to column name and I can simply type profile name. Okay, and then the AI will understand, okay, this is the profile person's name. All right, I could have written anything. I could have written person first name, or I could have written LinkedIn username, or whatever the case. The AI will be able to interpret what you are speaking about, right? Next, you want to choose the data type. So in this case, a person's name is just text, so we can leave it at that. Next, we actually want to scrape the URL, which is if you click into this and you copy that over there, that is the URL of that profile. So I'm going to type in profile URL. And this time, instead of text, I'm going to change this to a URL data type. Let's scrape a few more things. Let's say the LinkedIn headline. The headline is that over there. Let's say we also want to scrape this mutual connections degree over there. We can click add column, and I'll say mutual connections degree. And lastly, the reaction type, because sometimes instead of just liking, they'll heart it or they'll celebrate it. So I'll just say reaction type. You'll see there's also an option to scrape the subpage, which means it'll click into this and scrape the data on that page. It's actually simple to set up. You just click that, you choose the field. In our case, it's a profile URL. You click save, and then it'll scrape that profile as well. I'm going to exclude this. I'll click that X. And I'm going to show you later how we can actually scrape the profile, because I want specific or custom fields that we are going to be using in our DeepSeek prompt. So I'll set that up in a separate scraper. Then you can see in terms of outputting the data, you can either output as a table or you can save it to Google Sheets, Airtable, or Notion. All right, for this example, I'm just going to output it to a table. Also, make sure that you're selected on current page at the top, and I'll click scrape. And there we go. So you can see it scraped the profile name, the profile URL, the headline, as well as the connections degree, right? As well as the reaction type, which in this case, all 21 liked it. So I'm going to click copy, and I'll choose copy without headers. And that's because I already have a Google Sheet where I have some potential leads. So I have their full name, their profile URL, the headline, the mutual connections degree, and then I'll also have the reactions over there. So maybe I'll just write reactions. Okay, and then I'll come down here and I'll paste that into that cell, Control V. And there are my potential leads. The next step would be to actually scrape these individual pages or all the details on these profiles. Before I get to that, I'm first going to show you the other places that I highly recommend that you scrape leads from and how to do it. I already showed you reactions. You can also scrape people who commented on a post. In order to scrape the comments, what I like to do is click on these three dots, click copy link to post. I'll paste that into a new tab, and now the link just contains this post. Okay, and then here we have 2 comments. So if I wanted to scrape that, you would then need to then create a new scraper template. I already have one for the comments, so you can just copy this. Basically, I just wrote commenter name, commenter URL, and actual comment. Sometimes you might actually want to use their comment inside of the message that you send them in the connection request. So it'll make it much more personalized. So you can include that inside the DeepSeek prompt. All you need to do is make sure you select it on this one, and then click on scrape. And you can see it scraped the commenter name, the URL, as well as their comments. The third way to get granular or qualified leads is by posts themselves. Let's say your leads are maybe, instead of students, like in my case, there would be more teachers or experts on topics. Then you would scrape the actual poster themselves. So if I search prompt engineering, you click on posts. Okay, these people are actually more of the experts within prompt engineering since they're actually posting about it, right? So to scrape that, you can use this post scraper. So this is how I set it up: poster name, poster URL, mutual connections degree, actual post content, and when it was posted. All right. And once again, you can use the actual post content to mention something or some insight they wrote about, and you can include that in the connection request to make it much more personalized. Then you can also see there's a few options here. So you can choose between no pagination, click pagination, or infinite scroll. So for example, on LinkedIn, if you keep scrolling, you reach the bottom and then it keeps loading infinitely, right? So that's infinite scroll. So you can basically set this to infinite scroll, and then you can click scrape. It'll then scrape those posts while scrolling down to the bottom of the page. Another very useful place to find leads is to come to events. You can see these are all the prompt engineering events. But in order to actually scrape the profiles, you need to have actually registered for the event. So let me just go to one that I know I've registered for. So if I search LinkedIn automation, if I click on like a random one that I'm not registered for, you'll notice that if I come to attendees, you can see this isn't clickable. But if you click register, like I am registered for this event, and I click on the members here, these are all the people who have registered for this event, which means these people are actually showing intent that they want to learn, in this case, LinkedIn sales automation. So if I was targeting people who wanted to learn this, I would come to this group, or I would just go join a prompt engineering group and scrape those profiles. So to scrape this listing, I created this scraper called LinkedIn search results page, where I have their full name, the URL, the headline, and the mutual connections degree. What I'd also recommend, a little hack, is rather click on second over here. All right, so if you click on second, that will only show people who have at least one mutual connection with that person. Of course, you don't want to connect with your first connections because you're already connected with them. If there's not a lot of results for second connection, you can then click on second and third, or just third. And then you can see here there's 3,100 results. In my case, I'm just going to maybe stick with a second degree of connection. I'll scroll down, you can see there is 31 pages, and you can actually go and scrape every single one of these profiles. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, instead of choosing infinite scroll, I'm going to choose click pagination. This will allow Thunderbird to actually click through these to actually scrape all the different pages. So I'm going to select the next button as it's telling me to do. So I'll click on next. Okay, and then click scrape on the bottom right to start. All right, and then it's telling me to click the start button. What you can also do over here is choose how many pages to scrape. So you can see the maximum allowed is 100. So if we wanted to scrape all 31 pages, we just set that to 31. Okay, in this case, just for the example, I'm going to set this to 2, and I'm going to click scrape. Okay, so now it's busy scraping the first page. And now it just click next, and now it's busy scraping the second page, and then it should stop. All right, now it's busy processing. And there we have it. You can see it has 20 rows, 2 pages, and here is the details of all the profiles that we scraped, as well as the URLs. So you could then come here, copy with headers or without headers, and paste it into your potential leads. I'm not going to do that because I'm not actually going to use these actual leads. I was just doing that for a demo. But the next step is now to actually click into each of these leads. All right. So if you click into it, we then want to scrape the actual data on these profiles. Okay. So that includes stuff like the name, the headline, the about section, their work experience, their education, and then basically all that data will then get passed into the DeepSeek model, which will actually generate the personalized message. So once again, we can use Thunderbird to actually do that. So we can come here to create a new template, and we can call this something like LinkedIn page scraper. Okay, and we can AI suggest columns where the AI will guess what fields we want to scrape, but I want to be more specific with what it must scrape. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to populate these fields manually. So the first thing we want to scrape is the LinkedIn profile name. So I'll type LinkedIn profile name. Then we'll scrape the LinkedIn headline. And that's the headline over there. Then we also want to scrape this about section. So I'll just write LinkedIn about section, add column. We then also want to scrape their location. So maybe you are a location-based business who wants to only reach out to people within a certain area, city, or country. We can then use the location as a filter. So I'll just type location, add column. Then we also want to get details about what they're currently doing. So the current company name and their current job title. So that's their job title and that's their company name. So we can just write current company name, and the next one will be current job title. Then we also want to scrape their education. All right. Maybe something about what they studied would help the AI personalize the message based on their qualifications. So I can type in education, and I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Instead of just typing the word education, I'm going to click this and I'm going to click on add detailed instruction. And this is where you can basically tell your AI web scraper some more details about what exactly you want to scrape. So basically, I wanted to list the education qualifications and the corresponding schools. So I'll just write that out. There you go. So I wrote list education qualifications and corresponding universities/schools. And the list, writing it in a list would make it easier for the AI to interpret. Then let's do the same thing for the work experience. So once again, add detailed instructions. So here I'll say list of work experience, including the company names and the job titles. Right, now the next thing I'm going to show you is something actually even cooler. With most web scrapers, you can only actually just scrape, what's currently showing on the profile. But we can actually use AI to make a decision based on that current profile. For example, we want to determine if this person is part of our customer persona. Are they an avatar that fits our ideal client or customer? So I'm going to click add column, and I'm going to write interested in learning AI or automation, ? All right. I'm then going to also make sure I add a detailed instruction. And here I'm going to give it specific instructions to determine, does this person actually show any interest in learning AI or automation? Return either the word true or false and the reason why. So this is what I wrote. Based on this person's LinkedIn profile, would they be the type of person who would be interested in learning AI and automation skills, either to offer it as a service to clients or free up their valuable time at work by automating repetitive processes at work? Return either true or false, and the reason why true or false was chosen. Right, and we are actually going to be using that word true or false as a filter to filter out anyone who is false. All right, so this is what you call lead qualification. So you're qualifying, is this actually a potential client, yes or no? All right, because for example, somebody might have liked a post or commented on a post just because they're friends with that person, whereas this filter over here is going to remove those people and only keep the people who are actually interested in AI or automation, in my case, right? The next thing we want to add is the actual LinkedIn URL, and that's probably the most important thing. So I'm going to say LinkedIn URL, and we want to make sure we choose URL as the type over there. So because we currently selected on the current page over here, and we are selected on our LinkedIn page scraper, it will scrape this current profile that we are on. If I scroll down here, you can see you can also output to a Google Sheet. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to click Save to Google Sheet. Then you're going to have to connect to a new account and sign in with your Google account. So I'm just going to select mine that's already connected. Then you want to select your Google Drive. All right. So this only works with Google Drive. So I'll select that. Then within Google Drive, you want to go and create a folder. All right. You don't have to create a folder, but I did. So if I click my drop down, here is automation data. That's where I'm going to be storing this Google Sheet. And then you can give it a name. So I'm going to say my demo sheet. You want to give this a more relevant name. For example, my actual data is called lead scraped. Okay, but I'll just leave this as my demo sheet, and that will actually create a new sheet for you. I'll click save. All right, and let's test this out. So you can see now my demo sheet is configured. I'll click scrape. So this is now going to scrape Mohammed Ryan's profile. And there we go. So you can see it's scraped all of this detail, right? We can actually just click this open button to see our demo sheet that it just created. And there we have it. So there's our headers. Okay, so those are all the column names that we wrote out. And then here is all the details. Right, and if I scroll to the right, we can see under interested in learning, it says that the AI decided true Mohammed Ryan is highly interested in AI and automation as evidenced by his LinkedIn About section, which highlights his passion for leveraging AI to solve real-world problems, automate repetitive tasks, and drive business growth. And the reason Mohammed is so interested in learning AI and automation is because we were able to scrape the people who reacted to a post about AI or automation. And that's where I generated these highly qualified potential leads. All right. So the AI went one step further to actually qualify them and make sure that this person is actually interested in AI and automation. So now let's say you want to scrape a batch of them, not just open each profile one at a time. Remember, we're all about automation. We don't want to go and do things manually. You would come here, you'd choose I'll just choose a few just so it doesn't take too long. I'll copy these. Okay. And then I will come here. And then instead of choosing current page, you want to go to URLs, and then you want to paste in the URLs over there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's click scrape. So you can see it actually clicked into this profile. And now it's busy scraping this page. All right. And ideally, you don't want to actually touch your keyboard and mouse while it's doing this. All right. Because it's actually taking control of your computer or of your browser, and it's doing the scraping. So if you're clicking around and doing things, something's going to break. So just let this run. It will just take a few minutes, and you'll then have all the details of your leads. And there we go. So we can see it scraped all 5 of those profiles. So if we come to our Google Sheet, we can see here is all of our scraped data. So I recommend doing this process once a month. And the reason for that is because we are scraping from reactions or comments or posts. Those are the people that are actually active on LinkedIn. Okay, so by sending them a connection request, they're much more likely to accept. And that's because they're actually using LinkedIn, not like some people who have a profile but never actually use it, right? So this automation in make.com is then going to take Google Sheets as input, and it's going to process line by line each new lead that comes into this Google Sheet. All right. And the way we handle this is I added manually a column called status, okay? And you can see the ones that have already been processed have text inside that field. So it's either success or too many characters. And then the next one, you can see this one hasn't been processed yet. So this will be the next one that gets processed by make.com. Okay, and that is, who is this person? This is Michael Annis, okay, from Colorado. The way the automation knows it needs to process row number 8 next is because I added a new sheet over here, which is called next row index. It's basically, I just have these two fields. No one ever touches this page. This is just for the make.com workflow to actually reference which is the next row that must get processed. And the way this formula works is it's counting the amount of cells in column K in the leads to connect with sheet are not empty and then adding 1. So basically what it's doing over here in this sheet, it's counting in this column how many cells do not contain something empty. So it'll start from the header. So it'll count all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. And then because it adds 1 over here, you can see it adds 1 to that value. The row that it returns would be number 8. And that number 8 would be the next available row to process. Okay. So that's what we do over here in this make automation. We have this module, which is a get a cell. So if I come to add a module, you can just search Google Sheets, and then you want to search get a cell, and you want to use this module over here. You then want to sign into your Google account to then access this Google Sheet. All right. So here's my one. It's my Leon at Futurize Google account. And from here, this is how I set up all the parameters. The method is I chose to search by path. I chose my Google Drive, and then within my Google Drive, you want to choose the folder that this is in. And remember, it was inside of our automation data folder that I created in my Google Drive. And then within there, I have a sheet called leads scraped. Right. And then I selected my leads scraped sheet. Then the sheet name that we want to scrape from or get that next row index from is inside of our next row index sheet. So that's why over here, this row or the sheet I selected is the next row index. And then for the cell, I chose B1, and I chose B1 because that is the value we're trying to extract. So it's column B, row 1. So you just write B1, click save, and when you run this, it's going to then extract that value. So you can see the previous time I ran this, it scraped row number 7, but now if I run it again, it's going to be row number 8. So let me actually run this and demo this for you to show you exactly what's going to happen. So what it's going to do is first it's going to identify the new row to scrape, which is going to be the one in row number 8. It's then going to write a message with DeepSeek, and it's then going to visit that profile with a separate tool called DuckSoup. It's then going to send the LinkedIn request, and it's then going to log success. All right. So if everything goes well, that's what's going to happen. You'll notice that this happens twice. And the reason for that is because I created a split test. With any kind of cold outreach automation system, you want to create a split test so you can compare different prompts or different methodologies of reaching out to these people. In this case, I'm comparing sending a LinkedIn invite with a note to sending a LinkedIn in-mail, which is basically it's a message, right? Instead of connecting with them, you're just sending them an in-mail message. You can tweak these two workflows in any way you want, and you can compare the data, and then you can basically just keep A/B testing until you have a very high converting system where the leads are actually booking calls or signing up to your product or service. Okay, so let's click run once. All right, for your production environment, you'd want to actually set this to enabled so that it can run every 60 minutes. So that's how I set it. I'll keep this disabled for now, and I'm going to click run once to show you how this runs manually. All right, so, okay, it says scenario was rejected. Okay, that's strange. Let me just run it again. Scenario is running. Oh, it might be running because I enabled this. Okay, there you go. Now it's running. All right, so it looks like it probably already ran the previous one. Let me just go check. If I come here, Okay, so it did run the previous one, and now it's busy running the next row because I ran it twice. All right, so by clicking that toggle, it actually ran it. And there you go. So you can see now I just processed 2. So you can see how quickly that was. Here's the personalized message. So this one says, Michael, your expertise in automating finance processes with Power Automate is impressive. I'm building a tight-knit AI automation community at futurize.com. Think you'd add huge value, no pressure, but here's the link if you're curious. And there is the link to my product. All right, in your case, you could have a Calendly link, or whatever the case is. Here's the next profile. Kirk, your work at Cognitos on AI-driven innovation is impressive. I'm curating a free AI automation community at Futurize. Your expertise would add immense value, no pressure, just thought you'd like it. All right, so that was generated by DeepSeek, and you can see both were successful, but the difference is the first one, Michael, ran through this one for sending a connection request, and Kirk ran through this one for sending an email. So if we go to Duck Soup, if I come to queued activity and I refresh this, we can see here it has the following activities that are queued to run. We have a profile visit for Michael Annis. We have a connection request for Michael Annis. Then we have a visit and an email for Kirk. All right, just as we set it up. And then once these actually run, it will then show on our activity log. If LinkedIn detects that you're abusing their terms of service and just using a bot to connect to hundreds or thousands of people, they will ban your account. I have built this in a way that does consider the safety of your account. What that means is I have limited this to only send up to 400 connection requests per month. That's the limitation according to the resources and the research I found online. Breaks down to 100 connection requests per week. Now we do also have LinkedIn mails. So within the mails, if I come to my profile and go to, I think it's Sales Navigator account, you can see they provide you with 50 in-mails per month. Okay, so it's essentially 400 connection requests plus 50, so you can do about 450 per month. I only recently signed up to Sales Navigator, so I'm not sure if you can actually buy more in-mails. I don't know if that's something they offer. You will need to actually subscribe to Sales Navigator to build this automation. So for example, when you connect with someone, you come to More, Connect, Add a Note. You can see I have a 300 character limit for this note. If you don't have a LinkedIn premium account, it's going to limit you to 200 characters. That's not always a bad thing. Sometimes a shorter message might actually convert better than a longer one because it's less reading, less effort. I haven't done any A/B tests with that, but I definitely will A/B test that to compare if longer or shorter messages are better. There's a whole bunch of split tests you can do. You can also, split test the actual prompts. But yeah, I do recommend that you get the paid version just so that you can use this 300 character limit. So now that we have the next row to process, if we come see the outputs, in this case, it was row number 9. It then used the search rows module. So if I come add a module, go to Google Sheets and search for search rows, this is going to return the results matching given criteria. All right. So in our case, we are selecting our spreadsheet ID, lead scraped, which is the name of our file, lead scraped. And then the sheet name is the leads to connect with. Okay, so that's this sheet name over there. And then does the table contain headers? You want to set that to yes, because we do have this row number 1, which contains the headers of the data. And then for column range, I just left this as the default A2 CZ. Don't set any filters for this module. And then what happens is we then create a filter in the branch, okay? And we only want to get the data of the next row to process. And the way we do this is by using the condition where the row number must be equal to the value that we got from the previous module. So over here, what this is going to do is it's going to loop through all the different rows. And if I come here, you can see it's got all the rows, all right, for all the different bundles. And within each of these bundles, there will be a row number. There it is over there. So we can see this bundle is in row number 2. The next bundle is in row number 3, etc. And we are filtering where the row number is equal to the value. And the value is basically the output of this get a cell, which is the next row we need to process, which is number 10. All right. It can be a little bit confusing at first, but basically this will then only return the row of data for the next row to process. In our case, it was row number 9, which was this row here. And basically, it's only going to pass the data from this row into the next module, which is another search row. This one's a little bit different, okay? And what we're doing here is we want to check and we want to make sure that we haven't already connected with this person. We know if we've connected with this person, if that LinkedIn URL was already listed in one of the previous LinkedIn URLs in the spreadsheet. Okay, and the way I do this check is by using a filter where the LinkedIn URL contains case insensitive, all right, just in case there's capital letters in the URL for some reason. And then I say contains, and then I have the LinkedIn URL from the previous step. Then we add another filter where I have an and, all right, you can either have an and or an or. So we want to return all the rows with that LinkedIn profile, and we only want to return the ones which have the word true inside of their interest field. All right, remember in Thunderbit, we had AI make the decision on if they're interested in learning AI and automation. That's this field over here. So you can see it contains the word true. Sometimes it might contain the word false. And the operator I use here is a text operator where the contains case insensitive contains the word true. So it's a little bit difficult to understand at first, but basically it needs to make sure both of these conditions are true, and it will then return all the bundles where those conditions are true. And you can see if I click here, in this case, it only returned one bundle, which means it's the first time this LinkedIn profile is to be processed. I then add a router, all right? If I click add module, can search router, and you want to add that in. Okay, I'm just going to delete this. And you can see there's two paths this can go down. So either the lead has already been processed or it's a new lead to process. And if I click on this branch, this is the condition I set. So if the total number of bundles, where over here it returns this field total number of bundles. If there was more than one bundle returned, this would be a 2 or 3 or whatever the case is. So it's checking if the total number of bundles is greater than or equal to, and make sure you're using the numeric operator, is greater than or equal to 2, which means there's more than one of those URLs in that Google Sheet. Then what it does is it labels that as already processed. Okay, so we have an update a cell module. These are the parameters, and then in cell K, and then over here, I put the value. If I zoom out, it's using the value from the first cell. You can see how it shimmers when I hover over it on the left there. That is basically the row number. So in row K, in this case, it would be K9. It would then add in the text already processed. All right. And that is for the status column. The status is in column K. Okay. Then once we add that label, we also just add the timestamp to the next column, which is in column M. So in column M9, in this case, it'll add in the date. So you can see how I format the date using the current time, and then I format it with day, month, year, hour, and minutes to show the exact time that it was actually processed. That's just for my own reference. It's not actually required for the functionality of this automation. But you can see that's what the timestamp would look like, and that's what the status looks like. If it was successful, I would also log the personalized message, and that would come down this path. So if I come to this branch, if the total number of bundles is equal to 1, that means it's the first occurrence of this LinkedIn profile, which means it hasn't been processed. It then moves on, and it then passes into another router, and this is where we do the split test. So this split test based on row index, and how I split this is basically if the row is an even number, it goes down one path. If the row is an odd number, it goes down the other path. Basically, how the mod function works is it divides that number by 2, and it counts the number of remainders. So if it's an even number, dividing by 2, there will be 0 remainders. So the response from this condition will be 0. So if it's not equal to 1, that means that it's not equal to 0. So that means that that it's even, and it would pass down this path. So anytime it's an even row, an even numbered row, it would go down this path. Every time it's an odd numbered row, it would go down this path. And that's because If you divide by 2 and it's equal to 1, that means there's a remainder of 1, and then it goes down the odd path. Next, we have the DeepSeek module. All right, so if you right-click Add Module, you can then search DeepSeek. Okay, you want to make sure you're using the verified module, not the community one. And then you want to use the Create a Chat Completion. All right, you then want to connect this to your DeepSeek account. And the way you would do that is by using your DeepSeek API key. So if you click Add, all right, it's going to ask you to add in an API key. And the way you'd get that is by going to deepseek.com. Then once you're here, you can click on API Platform top right. You'll then need to load some credits. At this current time, they have server resource constraints, so you can't actually add any credits. But I'm sure this is a temporary issue that'll get fixed. But I still have $1.70 left from the last time I loaded. And then you want to come to API keys, click Create a new API key. All right, give it a name. So for example, make demo, click Create API key. All right, once you've created it, you can copy that key. You can come here and then you can paste it in over there and click Save, and then you'll have your DeepSeek AI connection. Then the way I set this up is I created a system role, and this is where I have all the instructions on how it must write the personalized message. And then in the user message, I include all the scraped data that we have in our Google Sheet. For the system, I basically give it a role. I say you're an expert at cold LinkedIn outreach. You specialize in writing personalized notes in connection requests. All right, then I'm not going to read through all of this. You can read through this in your own time. All right, and what is important though is I tell it to limit the response to 280 characters. Now, the response limit for a connection request on LinkedIn is 300, all right? But the reason that I don't say 300 in the prompt is because AI isn't really good at following the instructions on how many characters it should output. All right, you can provide a max tokens, all right? In my case, I have 87, but there's not a strict correlation between the amount of tokens and the amount of characters. So sometimes it's going to generate more than 300. So I allow some room for error and I say 280. All right, I previously had this to 290 and it was still generating messages larger than 300 characters. So I reduced it to 280 and it seems to be working fine now. All right, and then you can see I tell it the response format must be a JSON dictionary with one key value pair. And the example I gave is personalized invitation notes. Okay, and the reason we want a JSON output is because sometimes AI will respond with, here is your personalized message, and then it would actually write the message. And obviously inside our message, we don't want it to start with saying, here is your personalized message, because that's obviously, it's going to show that it was written by AI. We just don't want that. But by using a JSON output and by setting this module's response format to JSON object, you are able to do that. You can see here under the models, I selected DeepSeek Chat. Okay, you can also choose their Reasoner model, which is their smarter of the two. All right, you can't output a JSON object with their Reasoner model. That's why I'm using the Chat model. But you can also set it up that way. So if you set this to Reasoner, you should then change this to text, and it should still work. Then the temperature, I set it to 1. All right, I allowed it to be creative with its messages, so it's not always the same thing. Then what we do is we use a parse JSON module to extract the actual message. So if you look at the output of this, all right, we're going to have to look at this one because it ran through this path in the previous time. But if I come here, you'll see the result is basically this text. So it is a JSON, but it's just a string. So we want to convert this or parse it into JSON so that we can access this message based on this value. And the way you do that is by using this parse JSON. So if I come add module, search for JSON, and then parse JSON, this is the one you want to use. All right. So inside here, all you need to do is provide it the actual response from the DeepSeek module, right? So if I click on here, you're going to go to choices, message, and then click on content. And then the response, if we look here, the output is now able to actually separate the personalized invitation note from the actual invitation note. Next, what it does is it counts the amount of characters in the message, all right? And we use the length function for that. So we have the length and then we input the personalized invitation note, and that will return the amount of characters in that message. So we can see in this case, there was 208 characters, which is good, and that's less than 300 characters. And the reason we do this character count is because in the next step, we want to basically only actually send that connection request if the message is less than 300 characters, or else it's not going to be able to actually fit into that invitation note, and it's just going to cause an error and the invitation won't send. We have another router which checks the character limit. That's the same in both split tests. And on the branch, we have the condition, the node's character count needs to be less than or equal to 300. And then it will pass through this field. Otherwise, if the node character count is greater than 300, then it's going to run through this path and it's just going to log a message saying that there are too many characters. And it's going to use an update the cell module to do that. It's also then going to add in the personalized message, just for reference, in column L, right? There's the personalized invitation note, and it's also then going to add the timestamp. All right. So if we look at an example over here, here's an example where it added too many characters, the personalized message that was more than 300 characters, and our timestamp. Whereas if it's successful, it's actually going to log the success message. All right. But before it does that, you can see it logs the success message at the end over there. But before it does that, it runs through this path. So I'll just walk through this path. All right. The only difference between these two is this one sending an InMail and this one sending a LinkedIn connection invite. I will show you how both work. But first, what we do is we use duck soup. So if I come right click, add module, search ducks, here you go. These are the modules that allow you to basically remote control your LinkedIn account. So we are going to be using the visit profile. And basically what this does, if I click on here, it only requires two inputs. The one is the LinkedIn URL, all right, which is our, if I hover over this, it's the one from this module over here where it got the current row that we're processing, and the campaign ID. So what this will do is this will trigger a notification to that person that Leon Petru just viewed their profile. All right. And I do this to create the imitation that a human is actually looking at their profile. Then what we do is we have a delay. All right. So I have a 10-second delay. For production, I'd probably set this to a max of 300, which is 5 minutes. So if they're online at that time, they might see the notification, and then 5 minutes later, they are going to receive a message. And the reason we want the delay is to basically make it feel like it's not an automation, because if it's viewed profile, send message immediately, it doesn't create that same experience like somebody was actually writing out the message, the personalized message for you, right? Which is the impression we want to create. Then after that, I extract the first name, all right? And the reason I'm getting the first name is because I use it in the subject line over here. So you can see when I send an InMail message, in the subject line, I write first name, you're invited, and I include their first name just to grab their attention, and then you're invited. I keep it generic, all right? And then in the message text, I include a personalized invitation note that was generated. Remember, we extracted it with the JSON over here, and then that's the value we're passing in over there. Okay, and the way I get the first name is I take their full name and I split their name using a space as the delimiter. All right, so basically if the first name is Leon Petru, I'm converting that into an array using the space in between as a delimiter, so I can just extract the first name. So I convert it into an array, Leon, Petru, and then I use the get function to get the first item in that array. So in the case of Leon Petru, the first item would just be Leon, and then the output of this, if we see here, would just be the first name, in this case, Kirk. Then we can populate the fields in our send InMail module. So if I come add a module, go to duck soup, search send InMail. Okay, that's the module we want to use. And then the profile is the LinkedIn URL. The subject line is first name, you're invited. The message text is a personalized note and the campaign ID. And then you can click save. Then if that's successful, we follow the same procedure as before, where we use a update a cell, and in column K, we add the value success. We also include the personalized invitation note in column L, and we also add the date timestamp in column M. And that's where it populates those fields over there. All right. The only difference between these two is that in this first split test at the top, we have a send LinkedIn invite module. All right. So if I come add a module, duck soup, there's one called send connection request. And that's the module you want to use over there. Okay. And over here, you can see this one doesn't require subject line. It's just a personalized invitation note and the LinkedIn URL. Once again, I'll log success, the personalized message, and the date timestamp. So to set up DuckSoup, there is a few things you need to know. It is also a Chrome extension similar to Thunderbit, but let me just show you how the pricing works over here. All right, so if you go to, say, the monthly pricing, so you can see the Make and Zapier libraries only work for the Turbo Ducks and the Cloud Ducks plans. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on the Pro, which is the cheaper one. So what's nice is DuckSoup does actually provide a 14-day free trial. So you can set this up and see if it works for you. So you can just click this free trial button and sign in with your Google account, and it'll start your 14-day trial. So if you do want to set this up and use DuckSoup, I will include an affiliate link in the description. You don't have to use it, but if you want to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. It would motivate me to make more videos like this one. Once you've created an account, it'll prompt you to add the Chrome extension, right? And then what you want to do is go to Chrome://extensions, and then make sure you enable DuckSoup. Once you've enabled it, you can come here to your extensions top right, and you can pin that to your extensions bar at the top. If I click on this little duck icon, here is our DuckSoup Chrome extension. All right, so to set this up, in order for it to work in make.com, you have to click on this gear icon. Your toggles might look a little bit different, but just set it up like mine, where toggle on skip if the profile photo is blank. All right, because usually if somebody's profile photo is blank, they're probably not active on LinkedIn. All right, so I keep that toggled on. Okay, and then also for history, I say never skip any profiles. All right. You can also use DuckSoup to tag certain profiles. So if you visited it or something, or you've connected with them, you can add a tag to them so it doesn't try and process it again. But for this project, I'm just keeping it simple. Then under user over here, you want to make sure you clicked on expert. Okay. From here, you want to make sure your actions are set to the same settings as I have over here. Your skipping settings are set to that. Your throttling settings, leave them as the default. Then under connect over here, you want to come to remote control, and you want to make sure that remote control is toggled on. All right. And this is what will allow LinkedIn actions to be triggered outside of the web browser. All right. Otherwise, DuckSoup only works from within the web browser. Whereas when you toggle this on, you can use make.com to actually send those connection requests and the profile views. The important key that you need is this authentication key at the bottom over here. And this is what you need to actually configure your DuckSoup inside of Make. All right. So there's two things you need. You need the authentication key and you need the user ID. So you get the authentication key from over here. And if you come to user, you'd get your user ID over there. Okay. So if you try to create a DuckSoup connection, it uses the user ID and the authentication key. What's also really cool about this tool is you can go to funnel flow, and it has this really cool funnel chart where it'll tell you how many people have been invited, how many accepted your invite, how many people did you follow up with, and how many people responded to your invite. So you can come here, you can click on the drop down, and you can see the actual message that was sent in the invitation note. But this is a nice place to come and view the analytics of how your funnel's actually performing. What might also be nice is to build another automation that once a user either signs up to Futurize or purchases the paid plan, it then changes the status in one of these columns. So it makes it much easier for me to actually see what's working within the split tests and what's not. But other than that, the last thing you would need to do is come here, make sure you have enabled this. So I'll set this up to be triggered every hour, and you do that over here on this clock. So I set it at regular intervals every 60 minutes and click save. Basically, over the next month, every single hour, I'm going to have a fully automated business development representative that is doing my client prospecting and outreach for me without me needing to lift a finger. All right, you just set this up once, and then every month you go and populate this leads to connect with using Thunderbit. and then the automation runs on its own. All right, so you can just imagine how much money this would save you either hiring a BDR or how much time it would save you doing this actual outreach and analyzing their profiles and writing a personalized message. It's just going to save you a ton of time, and I hope this system will actually help you get clients. I will report back because I just built this automation now, so I haven't actually used it for my business. But now that everything's set up, I will be using it to try and get clients for my own business, and hopefully it will be able to do the same for you. If you enjoyed this video, you'd probably also enjoy this video showing on the screen right now, where I show you how to fully automate your video content creation process and post that video across all your social media, including YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and LinkedIn videos. And that could also be used to generate clients for your business, because you can have a call to action in that video to click a link in your bio, or you can tell them to comment something and use ManyChat to basically send them a link. Anyway, thank you for watching till the end of this video. I know it was a long one, but I hope it was valuable, and I'll see you in the next.